lounging, son.
All right. Welcome back to the Comic Lounge podcast. My name's Ryan, and back with me again for another episode is Jen. We are continuing like I said, I've been saying the past couple of weeks, she's joining me for a few weeks to talk some graphic novels. Dylan's taking his break because I'm glad to have you back again, and you picked the book this time, and we're talking about Inkblot by Emma Kubert, Rusty Glad. You know the name Kubert because she has a long line of family members in the comic book industry, heavyweights in the industry. Joe Kubert, the great Joe Kubert, her grandfather, amazing artist himself. He started the Kubert School here in the States. Then you have her dad, her uncle, the Kubert brothers, Adam and Andy, and it's cool to see this lineage of artists, like doing stuff in the industry. I mean, I've gotten to talk to her a couple times. We did a written interview when she had a Kickstarter going, and I talked to her briefly about this series, about Inkblot. I read the first issue and we chatted, and she's just such a fun person to talk to because she's so sweet, and her love for comics is really cool too, and how she got into comics was interesting. So let me first say, though, I'm kind of sad that the Kickstarter she did, we're never going to see that. You know what I mean? Like, that was her kind of just testing the waters to make a comic book by herself. But we do get a call out in here of Willowbrook. She does do a little bit of a callback to that. But I'm going to let you take the lead on the book because this is your book. This is your pick. Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Start us off.
Inkblot. It's I'm always really bad to describe a story, but whatever. Inkblot is the story of it's a story of a little cat that appeared magically in the life of a girl. It's a world of magic. Like, all of them, the family of this girl has everybody has powers. She's like an historian, if I can say that. So she writes like history of her brother, and then when while she was writing, she fell asleep, and ink jar fell on the floor, and little cat appeared out of that magic ink. And while we go through the pages, we realize that little cat is actually a magic portal. Basically, you can like open portals to different worlds and different places, and it's just like the start of a new adventure. And I really, really love that story. I wouldn't say that it is. I mean, it's really different from what I usually read. I'm usually attracted to like really dark, depressed nonfiction stories.
Yeah.
AKA Mouse. But this was really different for me. It like put me in a different mindset, and although it wasn't like I'm gonna be honest, it's not gonna like it's not gonna change the industry. It's not gonna like destroy barriers or build new like comics. It's not new. It's not like a new concept. It's not world breaking or anything like that, but it's just fun. And for me, it's just like put me through a different mindset. It was just so fun to read that story. It was like putting me in a good mood, and I really fell in love with the art. I think the colors are amazing. The art is stunning. It's like perfectly up in my alley. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. And then the story was just captivating. It was just like a really nice adventure story with a lot of different creatures, a lot of different characters. And I really love Little Cat because I think he's just like, he's a cat, right? So he's like an asshole, and he's just like doesn't care what he creates or what he does. He's just like open portals and then like does a mess in this universe, and then he just quits this universe and does like something else in another universe. He's just like messing with everybody, messing with everything, and he just doesn't care. And like he has like this like big eyes. He's just always like surprised, like, oh. Anyway, for me that was that. It was just really fun, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about that, because when I suggested it, I wasn't sure. I was like, I want Ryan to read this, but I'm not sure if he's gonna like it.
Yeah, I mean, I read the first issue, so it's not like it's funny. That's kind of like what I did with Die originally. Like when we talked about Die last week, yes, I've read the first 2 trades worth of Die, but this is the first time I read the 2 through 6 of this series. And I liked it at first because, like, I mean, like I said last week, also, like, I like fantasy, and this is a fantasy comic. You know what I mean? It's got, I don't want to say tropes, but it touches on different aspects of the fantasy genre. But to me, this is just a breath of fresh air. You know, like, I read a lot, like you said, I read a lot of dark shit. You know what I mean? And I read a lot of superhero stuff, and I read a lot of just very heavy themes, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to what this is. This is, I mean, it says it's rated teen, but this isn't all. This is, I would say, an all ages book. I don't think there's anything besides the fact that some dude gets his head cut off. You know what I mean? But it's not like, it's not over the top gory. So when I'm saying someone's getting their head cut off, it's not the same thing as like another book where you see a head cut off. Like, let's say in Vince, when people are getting murdered and destroyed, there's like intestines and guts coming with that. This is just like you see the shadow of the thing. But like I said, breath of fresh air. It was a fun read, very light read. I read it like faster than I thought I was going to. So I stopped. I read, because I reread the first issue again, and then I read the second issue before bed, and not last night, but the night before. And I'm like, you know what? I'll read the next four the next day. You know what I mean? And it was fun. It was a really, like you said, it's not, I don't think it's intending to be groundbreaking by any means. It's just Emma Kubert and Rusty Glatt coming together. They both met at the Kubert School. They are a couple, and they work together, and it's a very, obviously a very good working relationship, because being in a relationship with somebody and then trying to create something with them, I feel like that could be hard. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but I would assume that you could have some, you know, like where you're butting heads because like one person wants to do this, one person wants to do that. That's what I like about the trade too, is in the back they talk about their process. That was cool. You know what I mean? Like how you don't get that. That was like a nice little bonus to have in the back of the book that I actually really enjoy. I read it all too, and I really enjoyed it. You know, like Rusty Glatt illustrated it, Emma colored it, and you know they talk about the breakdown of who's penciling, the story, the scripting, and you know the cat is an asshole. I don't have a cat, but I've heard from many people that have cats that their cats are assholes. And that Lauren told me, she's like, you should be a cat person because you're an asshole, kind of, you know, like you act like a fucking cat. So I was like, but yeah, I think the cat was the standout. Like I remember asking her, like, what's the deal with this cat? Because I had only read the first issue, and she didn't really like allude to anything. But it's interesting, this cat can travel through space, time, like all this stuff, and like you go to the second issue and you start like seeing like where the, like at first I'm like, why are we seeing these stories set with pirates? And then like I started like I realized I wasn't paying close enough attention. Like, no, this is the family through time. Like they, you know what I mean? So you know, there's seven realms. You know, she lays a lot of the groundwork in the first issue, and then and not in the sense that it was like an info dump, but you know, it was a little bit more reading in the first issue than in the next one, right? But I mean, like, it's gonna have a second volume because I know issue 8 comes out, you know, this week, the week that we're posting this. So, you know, it's cool to see a nice light read from Image. When can you say that? Image Comics doesn't normally. I want to say they don't normally publish something like this. I know they have other books that lean into this kind of genre, but they have a little bit more violence to them. You know, so it's cool to see Image Comics take a chance. I'm sure it's her name that kind of helped. I don't think she got a gig or she landed this opportunity with Image because of her name, because she is talented. Either way, like, and you can totally see her dad in her style. You know what I mean? Like, I've been reading her dad's stuff for years. You know what I mean? Like, I have so many comic books by her dad, her uncle. I have some by her grandpa. But some of those are a little bit more expensive. But it's just cool to see. I just really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like I don't really, I don't know really much what else I could say about my overall feeling on the book other than it was a fun read, and I'm excited. I will pick up the next volume for sure. I was thinking I was just gonna borrow this, but I think I'm probably gonna buy it because I think I might want to read it again, or I could give this to Riley. You know what I mean? Like this is a comic book that I think she would have fun with too, because it's all sorts of adventure. You know what I mean? And I really like the cat with the dragon. I thought that
Yeah.
that was that. I think it made me smile as I was reading because it's like these fucking elves. They can't deal with the dragon. The cat just comes over just like all slowly, and the cat like only says Mao. Like
Yeah, he doesn't talk or anything, but it's
yeah,
part of the magic, though. It's like,
yeah.
I imagine him like if it was a real cat or like a cartoon cat or something. I was just like imagining it like just being that goofy, naive type of character that like doesn't realize what he's doing, But it's an amazing. For me, it was just an amazing. I loved it. I love that character. And it's funny because last week we talked about how it shows when a writer has like a plan schedule for his story, like if it's a multiple volume, and it shows in the story. But in this case, it shows that the creative team had fun with the story. They had fun creating this universe. They had fun creating these characters. It shows in the book, and it makes you feel like the fun that they had creating it. Like they're able to like give you that fun and then that light-hearted story and characters, and it was amazing. And it's funny because I was thinking like, I'm not usually the type of person who really likes like light-headed story. Like my light-hearted story is I Hate Fairyland, which is really gory and blood and everything. And so this one was really different, like it just took a different place in my bookshelves. I was like, I don't want to read something heavy. I don't want to read something gory or anything like that, but I still want to have fun reading. And this is the perfect book. And, my boyfriend, he's not the reading type. And when I brought this book home, he looked at the cover and I have all the single issues. So every week I was bringing the singles and everything. He was like, I really want to read that. Like it looks fun, it looks cute, it looks adorable, and it looks like something that he could read as someone who doesn't like to read, as someone who like doesn't want to like take the time to read something heavy or big or thick or anything like that. So that was something, it's on his reading list. And just having my boyfriend adding a comic on his reading list, it's something huge, right? Because he never reads comics. So it was like +5 points for that for Inkblot because they were able, just by the cover and by the art, to bring someone new to read the comic. And that
Mhm.
was, for me, that was really, it brought the comic to another level because we always talk about increasing readership, right? Comic readership. And this is the type of comic that can do that because it's the colors, the art, the type of story, that when you look in it, the characters, they're all fun. Like it's fun to read, so it can attract a lot of different readers. And that's something that I was thinking about. I was like, it's not just a fun story, it's an important like in its own way, it's an important new comic in the industry to bring this new readership to the industry.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good addition to like the comic shelves, right? Like I've often said that I as a fan or I as a like comic book reader, right? Like I started with superhero books. You're not going to see a kid picking up an Image comic and it being their first comic book. Reading this, like maybe that's not so true. Maybe Image, this is like the first of many books that they could publish. Because like, why does creator own have to stop at, oh, it has to be like rated teen plus or mature? It
Yeah.
doesn't. There's no reason why a creator can't do a creator owned book at Image Comics and it's an all ages book. There's no reason. We see it with Boom, right? Like Boom Studios has they got their regular Boom line, then they got Boom Box, which is like more of the all ages stuff. And dude, like some of that Boom Box stuff is like really good. Like I have read some really good stuff from that. And all ages comics in general, I think I've opened my mind to reading that stuff more because it's more because like I can go into work right now. It's a job. Well, it's not a job. I love reading comics, but like for me it's like I can use it as an excuse like, oh, I'm researching so that I can recommend stuff. Like my recommendation shelf, right? Like I have a shelf at work, all the employees have their shelves of stuff that they recommend. When I started, there was some Image and there was Marvel and DC. Now you see, like, I mean, it's fucking everything. There's drawn in quarterly, there's fanographics, there's like such a wide array of stuff. Now when, parents come in, like, first of all, I could always recommend stuff like around my daughter's age because like I get her stuff, right? I get her those little golden books or whatever. But now, like, the increase of all ages graphic novels with Scholastic, right? You have Raina Telgemeier, you have Dave Pilkey, Dogman, and all that stuff. The market is growing, and I think that that's going to grow the readership, and I think Image needs to get on board with that. I think that there's no reason why. I know that they run differently. It's not like DC or Marvel, right? Like, everybody owns their properties, but I think Image should start as a company when you're looking for projects to approve. They should be approving. I don't know, maybe people aren't bringing that to them, but I think creators should start bringing stuff like Inkblot to Image. And Image has a weight and like an appeal. Like, I would think, like, if I'm a creator, like, I would love to have a fucking comic book with the Image logo on. You know what I mean? Like, that's like one of the things that I would love one day to have. If I have just one issue even with the Image eye on that corner, like, I will be satisfied, and I won't ever have to create another comic book again. So I think that they need to look at this. I don't know how sales are for this. I know that we have, I mean, not a lot of subs, but it's a good amount. You know what I mean? Like, obviously it's not like Batman level, right? But I mean, I think we even have the same amount of subs for this that we do for like Superman. I don't see any reason why they can't do more books like this, and that in and of itself will grow readership, and it'll like, the readership can grow within Image, much like I grew within DC and then went to Vertigo. When Vertigo existed, Image could start bringing all ages stuff, and then the people will eventually go to Saga, we'll go to Paper Girls, we'll go to all this old stuff. Like, I don't know, I feel like this, while it isn't groundbreaking, I feel like this could be the blueprint for them to do more stuff like this. Because again, look, I've seen, this isn't a new story, right? This isn't some like, oh my God, this is the best comic book I've ever read. And I'm not saying that as an insult. It's a good book. You know what I mean? Like, I gave it a 4 out of 5. But it's fun. And like, even for somebody that's like reads as much as I do, I read a lot of dark shit, like, sometimes it's nice to just read something where you don't have to fucking analyze it like really deeply, and you can just like, just here to have fun. I'm just here to read a book and enjoy it for a fun story with great art. That's it. And that's what I got from Inkblot, and that's why, like, now I'll probably be able to recommend this to customers that come in that, oh, like, my kid is like, like, I would say around, like, I mean, I was reading dark shit at a young age, but I mean, some parents don't allow that, but I would say, like, 10 and up, I would say this is fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see why a 10-year-old can't read this book. I mean, I would let my kid read it at 10. I'd probably let her look at it now, to be honest with you, but
I don't think, I mean, it's not over violent. Like, sure, like, people die and stuff, but it's not, I mean, it's an adventure, right? Like, it's like, it's like seeing that because a knight dies, then, like, a knight dies in battle, then it's not for children, but like a lot of stories start with like a knight fighting a dragon and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't think it was overly violent. I think it's, like you said, an all ages comic, and it was really refreshing to not have that like intense violence in the book, and it was still compelling, and it was still a great adventure, and it was still interesting. Plus, you have a little bit of like mystery, you have a little bit of different creatures. It's just, yeah, for me it was a 4 out of 5 too, and the art plays a really big part in my love for this comic, especially the color work, because it's just so attractive.
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, I don't know what it is about the art, but I really, really loved it. Like, I guess it's the contrast or anything like that. It was just really nice. And I really love the humor in it. There's a chapter where Little Cat encounters a green monster. and then he opened a portal, and the green monsters like
Oh, the
go
Loch
through the
Ness. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, go through the portal, and then it creates the Loch Ness monster. And I thought it was so funny. It made me laugh, like giggle laugh loud, because I thought it's so smart, and it's just like a little detail in the story, but it makes it so fun and smart to read, you know? And this
Yeah.
is a book that, well, it's a series that I have in my pull list. And you know that I do not have a lot of thing in my pull list. I'm really picky. But this, I really love the covers of the singles. You know, we talked about this in a Thought Balloon episode, how like I don't collect single issues just for the art, but this one I collected for the covers because it's just so nice and it's so beautiful, and all the characters are just amazing.
It's funny. Like I'm thinking, like when I grew up, late '80s, right? A lot of the movies that came out in the '80s, like the fantasy stuff, that shit was dark. I think people have become so sensitive to like, oh, it's a kids movie. It shouldn't be that dark, But like most of the shit I fucking watched as a kid, you had Dark Crystal, like the Never-Ending Story. Like some of this shit gets super dark, and this story fits right in line with that. And it's clear. I know she didn't grow up in the '80s because I don't know how much older than her I am. She's probably closer. She's closer to your age than she is to mine. So, but like this feels like that. And towards the end of the book, and why I'm excited to continue reading it is like I want to know why she wasn't there for her brother. Like because
Yeah.
like at the last issue, the cat takes her back in time to the house that she was living in at one point in time, and she almost runs into herself, and she's like off, and she's remembering like, oh my god, like I remember this day, and it's her older brother bringing her younger brother, and he's dead. And so like that's gonna add a whole different layer to this book of why, like, because she's like called the bookworm, right?
Yeah.
And she's like the keeper of like the history, and she's always like, every time we saw her in the past, like in ancient Egypt, she's like on the cart and she's writing stories down, right? So I love that aspect of her too, is that like she's not a warrior. Her whole family kind of is though.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that last issue really took the book in a different direction than we were getting before with the previous 5 issues, and it's definitely something I want to see going forward, and it kind of starts to add a little bit more of a serious tone to the book, which isn't a bad thing because it is still a fun and light read. But yeah, I think you're spot on. This book it's just it's very refreshing to see something like this that just it's just
Takes
fun.
you in another world,
Yeah,
but like in a positive way. Like it's uplifting. It makes you feel good. It's a feel good comic. And that's
yeah.
something that I struggle to read usually. And yeah, so I'm just really happy to have found this series. I think it deserves more visibility. I think it deserves a little bit more readership because it's different in its own way. Although this, like we said, the story is, it's different in its own way, and I think we need to celebrate those comics who are able to like do something different with something that's really like really common, and just bring the like this common thing to a next level, and that's exactly what Inkblot does. So for me, it's just want to celebrate more comics like this. I think they are really different in their own way.
Fuck, I wish I had. I can't like really say much more about the book. Like I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was gonna enjoy it as much as I did.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Let me just be honest. Like I said, I read the first issue and I liked it. I didn't sub to it because I'm like, especially at that. I mean, like my list. You say your list is very small. My list fluctuates. Like I'll see that my list is getting to like, because like the way my list is like we'll have one shots, right, or annuals for certain books or a mini series. And even though a mini series is only what 4 issues, sometimes like I'll see my list get to like almost to 50, and I'm like, I know that this one's ending, I know this one's only 1 issue, but like this is too much, and I'll drop stuff. And especially with Image, like for the most part, their first trades are $10. I think this was, yeah, they made this one $10. So
Yeah.
not every first volume is $10, but I think that is, it makes it more I mean, I think that people should always support the single issue, but I think that it's easier for somebody to be like, oh, I'll pay $10 for that, because what, the cover price is $3.99, so that's 4 times. I mean, you're saving almost half, at least. Actually, you're saving more than half getting the trade. And if people are like that and it brings it to them, like, cool, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think I was gonna read it, to be honest. It fell off my radar. And if you didn't say let's read Inkblot Vol.1, I don't know if I would have ever got back to it, because it just, like, there's so much that comes out, and books
Yeah.
get lost in the shuffle. And the problem with books getting lost in the shuffle, especially when it's Image, is Image doesn't pay for promotion. You have to pay for the promotion out of your own money, and that's why you'll see, like, if you look at an Image book compared to a Boom, they're both creator owned, right? I don't know what the breakdown is in terms of, like, the financial stuff, but Boom promotes the shit
Yeah.
out of their books, sometimes too much. Like, the guy, like, oh, the third printing, like, dude, the first printing hasn't even come out. Why are you announcing a third printing? Why is there an 8th printing of Something is Killing the Children #1 when it's on issue 15? Why are you just now putting that up? Like, and that's a story for another day. You know what I mean? Like, I could go on and on about that stuff, but, like, that's the thing that I think this book would benefit from, is just a little bit more promotion. And I get it, for a creative, it's not easy to promote. I mean, I live with an artist, you know what I mean? And, like, I know it's hard for her to, like, how do I self promote? How do I not get drowned out by other stuff? Like, it's hard. But this book, and that's why I'm glad you picked it,
Yeah.
because now we can shine some light on the book, that where even if 10 people, even if one person listens to this podcast and checks the book out, like, like, that's a win. That's one more person that didn't know about it or didn't pick it up when it was coming out, that's now going to check it out. And I think that Emma Kubert and Rusty Glad, I'm excited to see what else they got going forward. Is this going to be a finite series? Like, they only going to do 2 trades? Are they going to a little bit longer? Will they do other stuff, collaborate on other stuff? Because I know, like, Rusty Glad himself, he has other stuff that he does. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'm glad that we read it. I think it's a very fun read. The coloring, like you said, Emma Kubert's coloring is really good. It's just like, even the coloring makes it a light read. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a
Yeah.
lot of warm, bright colors constantly. Even when they're in that cave fighting that dragon, like, it's still bright. It's not, like, ominous and dark, and you're like, oh man, Very good book. Very good
Yeah.
book, and I recommend it for sure.
I recommend it too. And I'm glad that we're able to not always talk about, like, must read, although I'm saying this with, like, very big yeah, because I don't believe in must read, but I'm glad we're not talking only about must read comics, because I think it's important for me, who's a really big fan of an independent comic or indie comics. It's important for me to shine lights on comics that might go unnoticed, because, like you said, there's so much coming out. Sometimes you don't even notice. You don't even know. I'm the first one who's like, oh, didn't know this was coming out. Oh, didn't know
Yeah,
this existed. So yeah, I'm really glad that we can use this podcast to just talk about those comics that might go unnoticed, but they shouldn't go unnoticed because they're really, really good. And Inkblot is exactly that type of comic, and I would recommend 100%. Like I said, it's something that you don't need to have, like, a specific mindset to read. You don't need
mm-hmm.
to have, like, this specific emotion in your heart. Like, for example, when I have to read Mouse, I have to have this, like, specific mindset and specific, like, my heart needs to be in a specific place to read something like Mouse or Welcome to the New World or something nonfiction like that, because it's so heavy, right? But Inkblot, you just pick it up and read it. You don't need to have anything, you don't need to prepare your mindset. You don't need to prepare your heart to something like that. It's gonna, like, swoop you in, and it's just gonna keep you in the story and just, like, warm your heart. It's just amazing. I love that. 4 star out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said earlier too, you get to meet, you get to kind of meet the creators in the back
Yeah.
and get a feel for their personality, which only makes you enjoy the book more. I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to find these images online. So I'm gonna show everybody. So like, like this stuff, like it's hilarious, like just them coming up with the story and like, the writing aspect, the pencils, the inks, the dialogue, the lettering, like
Even their
it,
Instagram is fantastic. They have a specific Instagram account for the comic. It's an Inkblot comic, I think it's called, like
yeah.
the handle. And they just share everything about like they do like snippets or like little small stories with a little cat, and it's just very funny. And I really love when creators create this type of Instagram page or social media page for their comic, because it just brings the story to another level. It creates depth in something really light like Inkblot. With this Instagram, you can follow the world and follow the characters in another dimension, and it's just even more fantastic. It brings, you're buying more than a comic. You're buying a universe. You're buying like the life of the characters. It's fantastic, and I really love how when creators do that.
Yeah, I think it's a cool way for them to engage with their fans too, and like I hope more people check this out. I hope everybody listening and watching, you give it a try. I mean, it's even a cool book to read with your kids. You know what I mean? And for all those people out there that have kids, it's fun. If you're a cat person, you should pick this book up too, because that fucking cat is. You read him as naive, but I read him like he just doesn't give a shit. But maybe that's just, like it's each of our own takes on
Yeah.
it, because you have to kind of like just you're guessing at this point. I mean, you can take from it what you will about the cat, but for me, he's just like, yeah, fuck you. Like I'm doing whatever the fuck I want. Peace out. Like, so I like that. I do. I think the cat was the star of the book,
Yeah, it was.
right? Even though the girl, I can't remember her name. I was like trying to look for it, but the bookworm, like the seeker, she is the main character, but really, like, if you're reading it, the cat steals the show. So if Emma and Rusty didn't mean for the cat to be the main character, he is now, because he completely stole the show from issue to issue, watching him like traverse space and time. And yeah, I can't. I think that if I just keep saying it, I'm just repeating it. So go check out the book. It's a great book, and yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. If you need a break from the dark or ominous storytelling that you see in other comics, or you just want to like a breath of fresh air, Inkblot is the title for you guys. That's
Another
all.
great recommendation from me.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And yeah, that's all I got on Inkblot. And I think next week we're reading a book that I haven't read before, Ed the Happy Clown by Chester Brown. A book that I has been on my radar for the better part of a year. I just learned about Chester Brown, like actually over a year. During the pandemic, watching the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, I've discovered a lot of cartoonists that I should have been reading that I didn't. And Chester Brown is right up there. And
And if I'm not mistaken, he's a Canadian.
he is a Canadian. So
Yes.
yeah, that's the connection for you. And I mean, Drawn and Quarterly is the publisher of that book, and they're in Canada. So I'm very excited to read that with you. I knew that I'd have a better chance of getting you to read it with me than I would Dylan, and I'm glad you said you would do it. So I'm very excited to talk about that book with you next week. Yeah, and then after that, Dylan will be making his return, and you and I will continue to do our thought balloon. We kind of took a little bit of a break. I'm still editing our last episode. It's almost done. I'm just so backed up with stuff that I'm editing. But it's we're gonna go back to thought balloon. I think we're gonna talk about another Chester Brown book on that episode, but it's gonna be less of a review and more, I think, just kind of a discussion on maybe Chester Brown. I don't know what to expect from that book either. I just ordered it because you told me to order it. So
You'll
I'm
see.
excited. Yeah.
You'll see.
Okay. So I'm excited to read that. Everybody listening and watching, make sure you check out our other Thought Balloon episodes. Make sure you come back next week for Ed the Happy Clown. Go pick up Inkblot. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Make sure you hit that like button, follow us, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video goes up. Make sure you follow Jen at Life of a Geeky Mind on Instagram. And on that note, we're out.